what is a class and an object? Well, an object is just an instance of a class. So you're thinking of a class, think of, for this example that I have up here, think of a car. So you have a car. Well, what do all cars have? Well, they have a number of wheels, they have seats, and they have a speed. Cool, so you got those. Now, what you do is you set up a constructor for your class, which is right here. So it takes in 3 variables. So it takes in a string, which is equal to the wheels. You take in a string, seats, and an int for your speed. Now, I have these set of strings. They could be ints. You can flip them around, anything like that. What this then does is in the constructor is when you create a car object, you will pass in these 3 values. So a string for wheels, a string for seats, and an int for speed. And then in that instance of the object, it will create it'll set your wheels variable, your seats variable, and your speed variable equal to its respective value. And then what the cool thing about objects is they're reusable. So you can have multiple different cars with different wheels, different seats, and different speeds. What you can also do is you can add string name is equal to a blank string to start up here. And then in here, you add in a string, NME for name. And then in here you go, name is equal to NME. So now I'm going to create a separate method that you can call. So a different function that will basically list out what the name is. So say name, and it won't take anything in. And all it will do is it'll write to the console the name of that car. Simple enough. So now save that. We go back to here, and here's how you create an object. So an object is just a instance of the car class. So basically, when you create a car, so now see it's giving me an error now because I haven't given it a name. So I'm creating a car with the variable name Malibu because my first car was a Chevy Malibu, so I figured I'd go with something I knew, which it requires your wheels, your string, your seats, your speed, and your name. So it has 4 wheels, 4 seats, it has a speed of 50, and then now we're going to add it a name. I'm going to call it Jim. So my car Jim. Okay, and then I'm calling Malibu.listAttributes, which what that is basically saying is a car object has a function called listAttributes. I want you in here to actually do whatever listAttributes says to do. So if we look at this right now, if we run this, it will, in a second, pop up with what listAttributes does is lists out the seats, the wheels, and its speed, which it did right here. If I can make this bigger. Well, basically just make it list out those values. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call Malibu dot say name. So what that will do is now, in addition to the first 3 attributes, it will also print the last one out. Give it a second to run. And there it is. So it prints out Jim. Now, the cool thing about using classes and objects in games is, say you have multiple enemies. So say you want multiple cars. So you have the car Malibu. So you're making a racing game. So you want a bunch of different cars. So you want car Ferrari is equal to new car with 4 wheels, let's say 2 seats, a speed of 120, and the name Speedy. Sure. What you can then do is you can also do Ferrari dot list attributes and Ferrari dot say name, and what I want to do is in between here just do a console.writeLine to separate them so we can see the difference. And what this will do is, without having to write out to create Ferrari and do all of this again manually, we just go in here and do a quick create another instance of a car, another car object with the name Ferrari, with the variable name Ferrari, and we can call the same attributes we called for Malibu. And so if we run this in a second, it will print out all the values for the Malibu. So 4 seats, 4 wheels, or 4 wheels, 4 seats, a speed of 50 in the name Jim, a space that I added, and then for the Ferrari, it has 4 wheels, 2 seats, a speed of 120, and the name Speedy. And so so in terms of putting it in terms of a game logic, if you want to have 6 cars in a race, since all cars will have these values no matter what, it'll have number of wheels, seats, speed, and name, for example. You don't need to go through the process of going through all this effort of setting all the values and creating all these functions over and over again. You can just use the same thing over and over and over again. And that's why classes and objects are really good for games. So it's not only just for cars. If you want to do, say you have a bunch of enemies that just have different names or slightly different attack values or random attack values and things like that. You can create multiple instances of an enemy object over and over again, and you reuse basically the code you've already written. That is pretty much the fundamental of game design, is using these objects, your sprites or your game objects, and using your classes and calling these objects to run your game. So the core part of what is a class and what is an object: a class is something like this, where you have a bunch of variables that are info about a thing. So in terms of this, a car, an enemy, with the functions it has and the variables it needs to work. And then your object is where you call it in your function, like here, so that you can then use it to, you can create instances of those of the class that have different values that you can use all at the same time.